Hi, how's it going? Listen, I'm going to be sort of short on this one. Not like super short, but I'm going to not be too long either because I've got to be up early in the morning. Now, I've been thinking about something today. There's a game called Feng Shui, which is awesome and changed the way I think about some game elements. For instance, how to handle NPCs. And hopefully they'll make a Feng Shui too. But it also started me thinking about how martial arts are handled in games. And a lot of the times martial arts are handled in games unsatisfactorily. This is not to say that, that there is a perfect solution or that I know what the perfect solution is. But it invariably ends up being awkward. And I started thinking about this because I watched some UFC footage not long ago, and it sort of reminded me the difference in different martial arts and martial arts competitions. Because when you watch a tournament, a martial arts tournament, with, serious martial artists, but in a classical sense, they're usually much more graceful to watch, much more. This is not to say that there isn't some speed and fastness, but the concentration is getting the technique right, and making it look, making it more accurate, I guess, more perfect to the movement, the way the movement is supposed to be, and how those movements interact with each other, right? So, you can see the two people across, and there'll be a block kicks, sweep, what have you, and then they're done. They're back off. And I was like, okay, I've accomplished my thing, and I've shown you my technique, and you show me your technique, and you hit, or I hit, or something like that. UFC looks like a bar brawl between two people who know how to fight. It's, they approach, they pop each other a couple of times, and then somebody invariably manages to get in really close and just start pounding on somebody and drop him to the ground, beat on him until he gives up. That looks like a real fight in a bar between two guys. It gets a little more complicated when you start dealing with multiples of people, but, it looks like a real fight. But it's also not the fight I want to watch. I want to watch the one with the two guys trying to show their perfection of technique. I don't want to watch the brutalization between two people. I mean, there's a certain appeal to it, and I've watched UFC matches before, but it is not the thing that sort of draws me. It doesn't make me stop and go, okay, I want to watch this. It's sort of a, oh, okay. But traditional martial arts, watching two people, show their perfection of technique, is the one I want to see. And games don't really know how to do that, I don't think. I have yet to play a good martial arts-based game that has the interaction between the two martial arts feel like two people, comparing their techniques and, having what we picture in our head the martial arts looks like. The movie version of it. Games are often about making the movie in your head. And invariably they are. The movie in your head is going to be cooler than the real world anyway. Gunfights in the real world are ugly, short, unpleasant things. But in the movie in your head, people are flying through the air, double guns, and the whole 9 yards. It's the same with the martial arts. Real fights are ugly, brutish, terrible things that you really don't want to get into. You're going to end up with broken bones. Even the people that are good at it will end up hurting themselves in the process of beating somebody up. But in a game, you don't want that reality, really. I mean, some games you might, but most of them you want the heroic fantasy of, being able to use some technique and have it compare against somebody else's technique and have them interact. Now, I bring this up because I don't know the answer here. placing conditions in Fate sounds alright, but I'm not sure how you would mechanically do this. Where it would still feel like this technique versus this technique, and the two guys who are masters of those techniques interacting and going back and forth. I don't know how the Fate sort of system would do that, or any of the systems I can think of. You know, placing conditions or status effects or what have you makes it kind of awkward. D&D never handled it well. Grappling, and I have some disagreements with a friend of mine on grappling, was because I didn't mind it. I think people should be allowed to be a grappler, and it should be an effective means, but often in D&D style games, it's either it's too effective, or it's not effective at all. And there's no sort of interchange of technique or style. The same with their normal combat. You know, 4th edition, at least, you know, each element had a stylistic, interesting thing happening when they would go off. But it doesn't feel like, okay, you use that technique, so I use this technique to stop it, and then you transition into this other technique, to that dance of tactics and moving back and forth, and the way I picture it in my head. And I don't know the answer. I don't know how you would make that feel right. But I think it's a challenge somebody should take on. And I may think about this more often. But anybody got some ideas on it? Because I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Now, some games, it's not the point. Like D&D, generally speaking, is not a game about martial arts. So it's okay that martial arts aren't actually all that interesting in D&D. They aren't that well developed in D&D because, well, that's not the point of the game. Whereas a game like Ninjas and Super Spies, which had lots of information about bunches of different martial arts, it in fact encouraged me to go look up a bunch of martial arts I'd never heard of. When I picked up the Mystic China book, I was like, really? This is a real thing? And I went and looked it up, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess that was a real thing. But the game system's horrible for actually reflecting martial arts. And I don't know what the answer is. I think there is an answer. I think there's a way you could do it, but I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's a card game. Maybe that sort of interchange between like Magic the Gathering could be turned into a decent martial arts exchange. I don't know. Anyway, that was what was on my mind tonight. I'm going to cut it here because it's been a long day and I've got to get up a little earlier tomorrow than usual. So, please, I am actually looking for feedback on this one. Let me know. What do you think? Do you think martial arts has been reflected well in a game that I'm just not thinking of? Or do you have a solution to the problem of how to make martial arts interesting in an existing game, or even a game you came up with? But that's my thoughts tonight. Share, like, subscribe, the whole 9 yards, and don't get jumped by any ninjas on the way home. But I'll talk to you tomorrow.